Welcome back to The Healer's Way. Right now we're going to speak to Dan Millman, author of Way of the Peaceful Warrior. Welcome to the show, Dan.
Thank you, Sharon.
Now, you're a world champion gymnast specialising in the trampoline. You've also practiced a plethora of martial arts from judo and karate through to tai chi, aikido, anis and sistema, and of course you're a college professor and coach. Did you ever think when you were of the age that you wrote about in Way of the Peaceful Warrior that you'd be the Dan Millman we see today, going around the world inspiring people with the wisdom of the warrior?
I hadn't much of a clue about at the time. My life has been lived organically rather than strategically. I just followed my heart, followed my interests. Looking back, that's what it seemed like. And life just unfolded as it did. So it's been a pleasant surprise, rather.
Fantastic. Now, one thing I really loved about reading Way of the Peaceful Warrior was that it reminded me a lot of the stories I used to read when I was younger about the naive samurai and his Zen master, really. Do we all meet our Socrates but perhaps shy away from our lessons?
Well, there's that saying we've all heard, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. But what I believe that means is when the student is ready or paying attention or open, the teacher appears everywhere. So it's not that someone has to meet a wise, eccentric old warrior in a petrol station like I did, the man I called Socrates. It's more about just paying attention and learning from everyone we meet. And sometimes we meet formal teachers at a seminar, reading a book. So my life has just been open to whatever wisdom I could find, wherever I could find it.
Great, great. Now, Socrates is a very enigmatic and eccentric teacher, and at the start he seems quite harsh and unreasonable. He constantly refers to you as jackass and buffoon, and I noticed that this was significantly toned down for the DVD version, which I thought was quite interesting. Now, do we all need such harsh teachers in order to grow?
Not at all. I was a self-absorbed, arrogant young gymnast. I wandered in that station. My life was successful. I had good grades. I was, again, as you mentioned, I was a world champion athlete. And so I thought I had it all together. Then I met this old man who had something I didn't have. I didn't know what it was. I had no words for it. I couldn't articulate. Many people want something in life. They have a yearning, but they don't know what to call it. So they call it spirituality without understanding what does that really mean in daily life.
Sure.
So he needed to humble me a bit and test me to see if I would stick around, even though he called me names now and then. But in fact, I've been asked that before about, does everyone have to be so harsh? And I met another teacher named Mama Chia in my book, Sacred Journey of the Peaceful Warrior, and she was much more gentle, a kahuna, teaching the Hawaiian system of healing.
Yes.
And she certainly didn't call me names. Socrates, I could tell his heart was always there. It was wide open. So I didn't really care about the names he was calling me because that was just part of his show.
Great, great. Now, law of surrender is something that you imply in Way of the Peaceful Warrior, and you certainly elaborated on this philosophy elsewhere. And the crux of law of surrender is just having this sense of vulnerability about you, letting go, and this is very obvious in the soft martial arts you practice, such as aikido and tai chi, just going with the flow and practicing non-resistance. And from a much broader perspective, you have said that stress happens when the mind resists what is.
Yes.
So what are the health ramifications if we all practice the law of surrender?
You've been doing your homework.
I have been doing my homework.
Yes, you have. And with your background in martial arts, you can certainly appreciate this law. Many people think of surrender as tolerating injustice or becoming passive, but actually it's the most assertive, intelligent, creative response we can make to any moment in time, because life is going to unfold as it will, and we can resist it, we can complain about it, or we can say, how can I make use of this? And of course, in the martial arts, if you're pushed, you want to pull. You don't push back. If you're pulled, you push. See, you go with the flow.
Sure.
And the best martial artists practice this kind of surrender. So you kind of guide the forces of life. And it's been said so many ways, when you get lemons, make lemonade, that kind of idea. But practicing it is something different from just using a slogan. And it takes practice, because what we tend to do is we resist. Something happens that disappoints us, a change we didn't expect, and the first thing we do is pull back, rather than just saying, okay, great, let's go with this and see what happens.
Sure.
So that law is in one of the laws in my little book, The Laws of Spirit. And in my tour of Australia, I spoke about that, and I'll be looking forward to a return visit sometime soon.
Now, going along the same note here, you said that your disappointments vanished when you released your expectations. So how can we make our plans for the future, yet release our expectations and stay grounded in the present moment?
Well, the past and future are wonderful places to visit, but we don't want to live there. And I used to think, well, we should have higher expectations because then we'll rise to those expectations. And there's some truth in that. And also, some people have too high expectations and need to lower them to a more realistic level. Well, my old mentor Socrates, in a book called The Journeys of Socrates, about his life, he had a mentor as well. And his mentor said, in combat and in life, expect nothing but be prepared for anything. And I think that's good advice for life.
Definitely
because
is.
we don't know what's going to happen. We can certainly plan our day. We run errands. We want to know which way to go. But we shouldn't get attached to the plans because life changes all the time. Maybe they're doing construction. We have to change our route when we're driving. So plans are fine. Memories are fine. But when we're suffering, we need to bring our attention back to the one moment of reality, which is this moment. That's what we can handle.
Absolutely. Now, we find out in the book, in Way of the Peaceful Warrior, that Socrates has his own health problems that he's suffering from, and you start to realise the extent of the sacrifices he's had to make to bring you back on the path. So now, do all great teachers make such sacrifices to inspire, guide and lead their students?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know all great teachers. I did know that this was a part of his life, that he did have, he said since he was a young boy, some heart problems. And it seems to me teachers are not, they're a bridge people can cross over, use to cross over to the other side. And that's what I do. I mean, teaching is a form of sacrifice. It's dedicating our lives to other people.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's the only thing I find meaningful. It's the only game in town for me. I can't help myself. I love to share. It makes my life more meaningful. So I hope I can follow his example. I don't happen to have a heart problem that I know of. My health is actually pretty good. But I'm just here for people. I mean, just to share what I've learned. It makes my life more meaningful. Because no matter how much I improve myself, only one person benefits. So I can only speak about my own movement to teach. I don't know what other teachers do.
Now, when you're well on the way of the Peaceful Warrior, you implement some changes to your daily habits. You start changing your diet, eating more fresh fruit and veggies, drinking herbal teas, that sort of thing. You've already exercised a lot, but you started doing deep breathing exercises. You're even celibate for a little while. And as a result of all this, you started to become socially left out. What is your advice to young warriors who are creating these sorts of changes but facing the same sort of social predicament because their friends aren't on the same path?
Well, that's a good question. And whether someone sees themselves as a warrior or not, just in everyday life, young people don't like to be different. They have peer group. They want to fit in and be part of their friends, part of their group.
Definitely.
But some of us, and you know what I'm talking about, some of us have grown up feeling a little different, like we don't quite fit in to the usual conventional mind and reality. And when people feel that way, I like to remind them that they should consider that maybe they're not here to fit in, maybe they're here to lead by their example. It's been tough on my daughters. My daughters grew up vegetarians, so their friends were all eating everything, and they were not eating meat. And people said, "What's with you?" And they didn't drink. And that put them out of the social scene pretty well. And that was true for me, too. Since I was 22, I haven't eaten any meat, for example. I wish I liked wine, I wish I liked beer, but I just never developed a taste. So I'm different, but I've accepted that. And I think in a sense, it's not like I'm telling other people to be the same way, but young people need to recognize and trust themselves. The strongest people, the most admirable ones I know, have been willing to be a little different, take a risk, and fit in with their friends in other ways.
It takes a lot of courage, though, to lead when all your friends, especially for males, I think, when everyone's at the pub and they're drinking beer and eating their steak and chips and that sort of thing,
Sure.
and they're going, "Why are you having salad? Why are you having salad and a juice?"
Right.
Yeah. So it takes a lot
There are
of
ways
courage.
you learn to say, well, right now I'm not too hungry, so this just seems okay for me. Not I've chosen a way of life, In fact, I got pretty righteous, after all the discipline Socrates had me doing, and I was judging people what they were eating, and he said, you become too righteous in all your purity, the stress is going to kill you. So that's why he took me out to party one night, just so I'd not get too uptight.
I did notice that in the DVD when you're at the pub with Socrates, and he takes out this cigar, and then the young Dan Millman goes, "What are you doing? People like us don't do those things anymore." And
Exactly.
I thought that's really getting to the crux of who you were then. That was really a very good highlight of this almost a superiority complex that we're above
Exactly.
the commoners. Yeah.
Exactly. And, you know, I've learned over the years that there's no best diet, there's no best teacher, no best book, no best religion, just the best one for you or I at a given time.
Sure.
And so we have to find our own way. Life is an experiment in every area of life.
Definitely. Thank you very much for that, Dan. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on The Healer's Way.
Thanks so much.
Stay with us. We'll be right back with more.